Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome aboard the AMX-13 Hot. And this tank is struggling, let's put it that way. Now, why is that? Well, it's practically a 9.0 light tank without mobility against a position that is faster. And it has no benefit going for it except the ATGMs, but it pays too much in terms of battle rating increase. The AMX-13 Hot is basically the AMX-13 SS11 with a 2.3 battle rating higher battle rating than the SS11. However, it has better rockets and more of them, but the trade-off is simply not worth it. Whereas I like the SS11 at 6.7 and actually think it's a bit too good and would deserve a battle rating of let's say 7.3. This tank should kind of get a battle rating decrease to 8.3. However, it wouldn't be of much use because it would then still see most of the time 9.0 battles. And this is where really the struggle begins. Let me talk you through some of the stats so you understand what I'm talking about. And the first and most obvious is the deficit in mobility. Horsepower to ton ratio of the AMX-13 is 17.4, much as the same as the SS11 and the Hot. They are basically the same chassis. By the way, you get the same chassis at 3.3 battle rating and the gun system at 6.0 for the first time. And you have to face tanks such as the KPZ-70 with 29.0 horsepower to ton ratio. And on your team is mostly the T-64A with 18.4. So you cannot even kind of be the light tank to the T-64A because that guy is faster, has a stabilizer and armor. Whereas you have none of those things. And you just have better rockets. Funnily enough, with those hot rockets you could deal with the T-64A from the front, but so far I've never faced a single T-64A. Much like with the remaining French tanks that I played so far, I never faced the Russians, at least 6.0 and higher. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem. So again, the gun. You have a maximum penetration value of 180 millimeters, and at that battle rating to deal with your most opponents is just not good enough from the front. Now, for side shots it's actually pretty good because of the increased spalling effect, but then again you have no APDS, you have no heat, you have no APFSDS, hash or something like this, and every other tank can easily kill you. Hell, even the Begleitpanzer 57 feels more comfortable at 9.0 than this tank because it has better mobility and an autocannon where you just don't have to suffer through any kind of reload, except you're really down the 24 rounds. But you know what I'm talking about. So this tank really struggles. Now I have to really say that flanking is the problem, because you cannot really do it. If one enemy tank decides to flank, what do you want to do? You get intercepted even if you can get into some sort of ambush positions on most maps. In this example, in this particular example, the enemy didn't notice me, they just didn't pay attention, and I just could do the usual work. And as you can see, I still tried to scout. The scout mechanic is what brings you a lot of income in this tank, mostly civil line wise, but also in the long run RP because of action in the match and so forth. And also you can kind of mark those enemies that are on your flank. Hopefully some of your team's main battle tanks will notice, take care of this, and you can flank further. For side shots, again, the tank is fine, but you don't have a reverse gear. And if you look at other light tanks of lower battle rating, they have already all the benefits that you desire. Object 906 at 7.0 as a light tank has a stabilizer. BMP-1 at 7.3 has a better main gun in terms of sheer penetration, and well, it also has a second generation ATGM as backup, the Concourse, with 500 millimeters of penetration, which at 7.3 can deal with everything, even an angled mouse. So you kind of see you are a bit left in the dust. The one problem is, if you would decrease the battle rating of this tank to even 8.0, it still would get up-tiered all the time into 9.0. The problem is the rockets are so damn strong that if you would put it at 7.7, where it's always top tier, it would very often also face 6.7 tanks, and that's just absurd. So it would further increase the power creep. However, in its current position, it just perfectly shows the compression issues at higher tiers. And whereas the main cannon at that higher battle rating finally would, at least on theory, face more and more tanks that have no armor whatsoever. I mean, the SPAs go back in the armor in general. For example, if you compare it to the Kugelblitz or the Coelion at 6.7 and 7.0, you kind of get back to no armor but better mobility for tanks such as the ZSU 57-2 or the ZSU 23-4, hell, even the Falcon, or for the Germans the Gepard, for the Americans the M163, and so forth. But they also can deal easily with you, and they have the rate of fire advantage. So you don't have such an easy time. Also, all the ATGMs, except for the IT1, you could deal from the front, but you rarely face them at that battle rating, because everybody's and its dog's mother plays, you know, KPZ 70 and or T64A. You rarely see anything else, and even if it's something else, it's mostly a chieftain or wonder, also gun stabilized. So it's a tough choice. And you could, in theory, be the light tank to the, well, chieftain, but then again, you still would have to deal with tanks that are mostly better than you in terms of mobility. Also, your gun depression with just 6 degrees now is really painful. So even if you go into an advantageous position, you have trouble, you know, making it work. That's all that I want to say. Everything about this tank is just not good enough. And if this would be a medium tank, it already would struggle. But as a light tank without any kind of armor, with no stabilizer, it's just too much. Final verdict: it's highly over-tiered, but you cannot down-tier it, because then it would be a horrible power creep. So the final verdict is, I cannot recommend to go for this tank. Focus on, you know, playing other stuff first. Maybe we'll see in the future additional tanks, and then in some sort of lineup it has a place. I mean, it's not useless, don't get me wrong, but it's a very tough fight in every single match. And I guess if you would ask me how to play this tank, I'd say very opportunistic, very safe, campy, and always in a flanking position, of course. Don't try to rely on your ATGM. It would give away your position. It takes time that the rocket will hit the target, and this time you cannot really move, except if you then misfire the rocket and so forth. So I guess the biggest tip and trick that I can give you is that you try to survive the initial engagements between the T64s and MBT-70s, and then the survivors will spawn in less dangerous tanks, and then you are in a far better position to take them on. Again, a lot of the SPAs and ATGMs and some of the other light tanks have no armor, and so you can one-shot them. For side shots, your gun is still very good because of the buffed spalling effect of the AP rounds. Yeah, so it's not all lost for this tank, but you know, if you then want to go through the stock grind with even less horsepower to ton ratio, where your tracks just have no grip on slopes or on mountainsides, it's not enjoyable. It's such a long and painful upgrade way. I would be really asking myself twice if I would go for this. I really love the SS11, but I can understand why some people struggle, but it has its place. And it also could, you know, get a up tier to 7.3 in terms of battle rating. But this tank, without a stabilizer and that lack of mobility, it's just too damn of a struggle. So yeah, that's the final verdict for this tank. Very, very challenging. It has its bright sides. The ATGMs are good, and they are what dragged the tank up to 9.0, but it's too much of a punishment in my books. That's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know what you think about the new sound mod, the Epic War Thunder sound mod, and yeah, give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the battlefields and in the skies of War Thunder.